Hello, welcome to yet another completely unprofessional unboxing. Scott here, and we are back again with yet another box. More like a cardboard envelope, but still, there's little goodies and games inside this thing here. This one right here comes from a site, as you can tell by the stamp, LFOSR. If you're unfamiliar with that site, it is a wonderful little site. I think I have showed something that I purchased from there before. But it is a wonderful little site that doesn't have a huge inventory, but what they do have is a wonderful eclectic offerings of games. Their inventory seems to be on a bit of a rotation, so if you see things on there that you like, you need to grab them right away because most of the time they're limited and things get shuffled in and out quite a bit. But anyways, so there are quite a few different games that are in here. They're not huge. They are zine or digest size, but just because of what's in here and the attention I want to bring to them, this might be a two-part episode. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Play it by ear. And this one is open, or already open, because one of the things that I purchased from them was for a friend. So I just want to make sure that wasn't that came with this, of course, so I can give it to them. And also I wanted to remove it from what we have in here because it's their game and hoping, to keep it a surprise. So anyways, without further ado, no need for a knife. As you can see, or as I mentioned, it is open, but let's go ahead and pull it out and see what we have here. There we go. This is probably the easiest one that I've ever done. And we'll set this wonderful package aside here. And I think I will start with, we will set this here. As you can see, one of the things in here is a game called Durf, the collected edition. So we'll set this aside and we'll open this one here. Okay. They do provide, little fiddly bits that when you purchase their thing, here's a nice little sticker and a farm card, a little RPG farming mini game that they have. So kind of set that aside for now. There are character sheets and other things that came with the games that I purchased. And we'll just set those there. And we'll focus first on one of the reasons why I went to their site to pick this up. Okay, perfect. So what do we have here? What we have is a game called Cairn. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, Cairn, however way you would like to pronounce it, it's fine with me. I'm going to go with Cairn just for ease of repetition. So, Cairn. So this is a small little game that I've kind of seen mentioned quite a bit around the RPG gaming circles and conversations and whatnot. And I originally found it on Exalted Funeral. I believe it was sold out at the time, but LFOSR, maybe a couple weeks ago, I'm not entirely sure, was providing a special edition, meaning that this came in a far better quality than what you would get normally from Exalted Funeral or even from LFOSR themselves, as I believe they do provide the standard edition. I could be wrong, but if they don't, feel free to send a complaint to the email address listed in the description. But anyways, so it is an OSR-centric game. Rules light, I can pretty much assure you. And just was curious, like most things, what was it about this that people were just carrying on about? So it was a couple dollars more for the special edition, which comes with beautiful character sheets. These are wonderful, wonderfully eclectic sheets that provide a good amount of artwork on here, but that doesn't obstruct the usage of a character sheet. There are tons of wonderful. They have a rule summary on the back here. How useful. There are tons of beautiful character sheets that exist for all sorts of RPGs out there. Some have a wonderful artistic quality to them, but some tend to go overboard, almost rendering the character sheet useless or at the very least unprintable. So this one kind of straddles the middle road with that. Beautiful pieces of art, but still clear and concise as to the information that's on the sheet. And as you can see, it's something that you can use without issue. You don't have to worry about overwriting or writing within the artwork itself. So we'll set those aside. So Cairn, what is it? What is this game, and why are people carrying on about it? So according to Cairn itself, it is an adventure game for one facilitator, the Warden, so that's their GM, and at least one other player. Players act as hardened adventurers exploring a dark and mysterious wood filled with strange folk, hidden treasure, and unspeakable monstrosities. It's featuring public domain art, by Wilhelm Jordan, W. Heath Robinson, Rolf von, Horschlemann, apologies, Arthur Rackham, and Arthur Laird. It is written by, apologies again, Yokai Gall, and he offers a thanks here, which kind of may give you a general idea as to what the game's foundation is, to Chris McDowell from Into the Odd, Ben Milton for Knave, Jim Parkin for Weird North, Gavin Norman for Dolmenwood, and so on. So, and of course, we're ending here with a little special message to Sarah because she knows why. So, if you're familiar with Into the Odd and Knave and whatnot, you can pretty much garner that it is rules light and probably uses certain aspects of that. So, Cairn was written with the following design philosophies in mind. There are 8 of them here: classless, death, fiction first, growth, neutrality, player choice, principles, and shared objectives. Okay. So interesting. So classless. Characters' roller skills are not limited by a single class. Fair enough. Death. Characters may be powerful, but they are also vulnerable to harm in many forms. Fiction first. Dice do not always reflect an obstacle's difficulty or its outcome. Instead, success and failure are arbitrated by the Warden in dialogue with the players based on in-world elements. Fair enough. Also, growth. Characters are changed through in-world advancement, gaining new skills and abilities by surviving dangerous events and overcoming obstacles. And neutrality. The Warden's role is to portray the rules, situations, NPCs, and narrative clearly while acting as a neutral arbiter. Player choice. Players should always understand the reasons behind the choices they made, and information about potential risks should be provided freely. Principles. The Warden and the players each have guidelines that help foster a specific play experience defined by critical thinking, exploration, and emergent narrative. And finally, we have shared objectives. Players trust one another to engage with the shared setting, character goals, and party challenges. Okay, so I mean, this is a great foundation. This is not only a good foundation for this game itself, but it seems to emulate a lot of the general tenets associated with a lot of the OSR games that exist out there. So, granted, this is obviously catered towards this game, but these are principles and philosophies that should kind of be the cornerstone for most RPGs, to be perfectly honest, in one way or another. All right, so carrying on, it carries on with a list of principles, principles for Warden and principle for players. So they are assigned as information. I'll give an example of one apiece. Information, provide useful information about the game world as the characters explore it. Okay. Difficulty, default to context and realism rather than numbers and mechanics. Danger, the game world produces a real risk of pain and death for player characters. Choice, give players a solid choice to force outcomes when the situation lulls. Preparation, the game, some of those many of us struggle with as game masters. But yes, anyways, preparation, the game world is organic, malleable, and random. It intuits and makes sharp turns. Fair enough. Okay. Narrative focus, I would assume thus the need for preparation. Narrative focus, emergent experience of play is what matters, not math or character abilities. Treasure is specific to the environment from where it is recovered. It tells a story. Die of fate, occasionally you will want an element of randomness, and then it carries on with rules on how to provide that. So we have, let's see here, we have 8 principles for Wardens within this game. So we're starting off essentially with design philosophy a principles for Wardens, and it does provide a minor amount of game mechanics within it. And once again, I mean, these aren't beholden to this particular game itself. These are principles that that can be utilized in just about any RPG for that matter. It doesn't have to be OSR, or it doesn't have to be fantasy. These are more generalized, but it is nice to have these pointed out and, for presentation's sake, bullet pointed here, because in most cases it you never know what someone's first game is going to be. Granted, it may not be something such as this, but it never hurts to to continue to learn and grow as not just a game master or warden within this game, but also as players, as we'll see here, as it provides principles for players. Carrying on, in regards to players, we have agency. An example: attributes and related saves do not define your character. They are tools. Okay, interesting. Teamwork. Seek consensus from other players before barreling forward. Right. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with that, but as stated, these aren't principles that should be exclusive to Cairn. That right there is something that should be pretty much the foundation for any players within any game. So, exploration. Asking questions and listening to detail is more useful than any stats, items, or skills you have. Talking. Treat NPCs as if they were real people and rely on your curiosity to safely gain information and solve problems. Caution. Fighting is a choice and rarely a wise one. Consider whether violence is the best way to achieve your goals. Planning. Think of ways to avoid your obstacles through reconnaissance, subtlety, and fact-finding. And ambition. Set goals and use your meager means to take steps forward. Okay. All right. Then we go on to the rules. So we have a good chunk of information here that I feel right away. I mean, even if, let's just say, if this game isn't for me as I get into the nuts and bolts of it, these principles themselves are definitely worth the cost of admission for this game, because this is valuable advice for anybody and within any game. So. Okay, then we carry on with character creation. So what do they use in this game for character creation? First, choose your role and your NPC's name and background from their respective tables. Okay, so that's fine. And then roll for the rest of your character's traits. And then finally, roll for their age. Then we carry on with the ability scores, which this one only uses 3. Strength, dexterity, and willpower. Then we go on to hit protection. Starting HP. Okay, so hit protection is hit points, or their version of hit points. So hit protection you roll for, and then you carry on with your inventory. You have a total of 10 inventory slots. Okay, great. I'm a big fan of inventory slots within a lot of the different games that are out there, specifically OSR games that tend to rely on inventory management, at least to a certain degree. Games that involve hex crawls and dungeon delving and whatnot, and sometimes inventory is just a hand wave, and others are necessary to enjoy the author's vision of the game. And having something such as slots does make it a little bit easier for the players to manage their inventory without having to worry about adding up the total of what the weight is. So I like that. That kind of keeps the game moving to a certain degree, depending, of course, on the style of the game and what it is that you're running. Me personally, I can go either way. I do like inventory slots, but I am a bit older, as you can tell. So having to tally up the total of weight for a specific game in order to make sure that I'm not over encumbered is okay with me, but it can get cumbersome as time goes on, which is just something that you either accept or you find another way, like with slots. So, carrying on, all PCs begin with 3 days rations, 1 slot, a torch. I'm sorry, whoops, back up. Okay, 3 days rations, which take up 1 slot, a torch, which takes up 1 slot, and 3d6 gold pieces. And then carrying on, you roll on starting gear, and if indicated, roll on spell books. See the equipment list for related armor, damage, and slot values, and then there's more optional gear on page 10. All right, so then we've got our tables here for our character traits, starting gear, expeditionary gear, tools, trinkets, and so on. And then we carry on with spell books. So there are 100 spells that come with this particular game, and spell descriptions on 16 through 18. And you've got your equipment list, gears and tool and weapons, and then optional gear packages. So what are the rules of this game? So there are 3 abilities. We have mentioned we have strength, dexterity, and willpower. A save is rolled to avoid bad outcomes from risky choices and circumstances. So you roll a d20 for an appropriate ability and for appropriate ability score. And if they roll equal to or under that ability score, they pass. Easy peasy. Otherwise, they fail. A 1 is always a success, and a 20 is always a failure. Okay, so I mean, not complicated at all. Focus on, don't let the dice management get in the way of you having fun with this game. Resting for a few moments and having a drink of water restores lost hit points. Fair enough. And ability loss, that's part of a game. Okay, can usually be restored with a week's rest. And then we have deprivation and fatigue. So, as mentioned prior, inventory and management is obviously part of this game. And if you don't manage your inventory properly in regards to your food and water, then obviously you're going to be deprived and likewise fatigued. Let's see, a PC deprived of crucial needs such as food or rest is unable to recover hit points. So that's the penalty. So if you're deprived and you don't have any food or rest after a certain period of time, if you're hurt, you carry that wound with you until you get rest or food. Anyone deprived for more than a day adds fatigue to their inventory. Each fatigue occupies 1 slot and lasts until the PCs recuperate safely for a full night. So there you go. So penalties are you don't heal, and then you lose your ability to carry your stuff, thus having to make a decision. If you don't find food or rest, and your inventory is going to shrink, or your ability to carry stuff is going to shrink. So armor, before calculating damage to PC, subtract the target's armor value from the result of damage rolls. Okay, so armor is something that doesn't have anything to do with your hit, but just damage. And then finally, NPC. So there is also reaction table. Very cool. I'm a big fan of reaction tables. I find it highly valuable when dealing with just general NPCs with most games. And then, of course, morale. So carrying on, wealth and treasure. Gold piece is the standard here, and treasure is highly valuable, and so on and so forth. Hirelings. So there are hirelings within this game. Let's see here. To create a hireling, roll 3d6 for each ability score and give them 1d6 hit points and a simple weapon. Then roll on the character creation tables to further flesh them out. Finally, we have spellbooks and scrolls. Spellbooks contain a single spell and take up 1 slot. Okay, cool. That cannot be transcribed or created. Instead, they recover from places like tombs, dungeons, and manors. Okay, so spells you can't research, you have to go out and hunt for them. So thus facilitates the need to continue to not just search for treasure, but if you have spellcasters and they want to increase their capabilities, then they're going to need to also go out, not waste their days doing research within an old dusty wizard tower. Spellbooks sometimes display unusual properties and limitations, foul or unearthly smell when open, possessing an innate intelligence, and so on. Okay, spellbooks will attract the attention of those who seek the arcane power within, and is considered dangerous to display them openly. And then finally, we have scrolls. The difference between scrolls and spellbooks are they do not take up an inventory slot. Cool. They do not cause fatigue, and they disappear after 1 use. So fair enough. So that's the trade-off. Anyone can cast a spell. Okay, casting spells. Anyone can cast a spell by holding a spellbook in both hands and reading its contents aloud. They must then add a fatigue to inventory, occupying 1 slot. Given time and safety, PCs can enhance a spell's impact without any additional cost. If the PC is deprived or danger, the warden may require a PC to make a will spell to avoid any ill effects from casting. Okay. And then finally, we have relics. So relics obviously are items imbued with a magical spell or power. They do not cause fatigue. Relics usually have a limited use as well as a recharge condition. Okay. And then dealing with combat within the game, it's dealt with in rounds. A round is roughly 10 seconds of in-game time and is comprised of turns. Actions, on their turn, a character may move up to 40 feet and take up to one action. This may be casting a spell, attacking, making a second move, or some other reasonable action. Turns, the Warden will telegraph the most likely actions taken by NPCs or monsters at the start of combat. Each PC must make a dex save to act before their opponents. And then attack and damage. The attacker rolls their weapon die and subtracts the target's armor, then deals the remaining total to their opponent's HP. Unarmed attacks always do 1d4. And then there's attack modifiers. In regards to if the attacker is impaired, the attacker must roll a 1d4 damage regardless of the damage die used during the attack. And then dual weapons. If attacking with two weapons at the same time, roll both damage die and keep the single highest result. Okay. I think that's an okay trade-off rather than, having to attack at a deficit or something. Or not being trained. That's a decent way to allow people to utilize two weapons at once. Not sure I'm 100% sold on that, but at least it's a compromise rather than you have a horribly negative modifier or you're untrained, because let's face it, most everyone I know, including myself, wants to be awesome in dual wield weapons most of the time. And blast attacks, critical damage, and then we also have the ability to obtain scars within combat. And then ability score loss is part of the game too. Dealing with unconsciousness and death. When a character dies, the player is free to create a new character or take control of a hireling. They immediately join the party in order to reduce downtime. Good enough. And retreating. Okay, so running away from a dire situation always requires a successful dex save as well as a safe destination to run to. Then we have a short list of bestiary, and then some instructions on creating monsters, along with some information on converting from OSR games, which is great. So there you go. You kind of, not immediately, but you do have a starting point if you want to utilize this very simple set of rules in other OSR adventures or games that you're familiar with. And then we have a list of spells here with a short description of, and of course the spells themselves can be abstracted or personalized, I would imagine, from here. Icy Touch. A thick ice layer spreads across a touch surface up to 10 feet in radius. And that's a great description, and that kind of opens it up to what does the spellcaster want to utilize it for, rather than having a specific purpose. It opens up the narrative of the spell for players to kind of let their imagination go wild. So I like both things. I'm never really one to sit to have one particular game or aspect of things like spell casting and spells, and does the spell need to have a direct definition of what it does, or can it just be a single sentence and let the players work with their GM to define the outcome individually depending on the situation. I love Dungeon Crawl Classics and its ridiculous amount of spells and the wonderful amount of opportunities that arise from spell casting on their random tables. I think it's fantastic. It's a blast. Likewise, I love this, and to give the ability for those who can. It's not all players are made the same. Some can take the sentence and create a different spell effect every time from here, and others just aren't. Whether they're uncomfortable with that, or they just feel like that they just don't have the capacity, But they prefer to rely on the game itself to define it. Neither is wrong. Just depends on what you, the player, or the GM for that matter, is comfortable with. And as mentioned, 100 spells, and then another copy of that very beautiful and functional character sheet, along with a rule summary on the back, which we found out, comes on the back of the character sheet, which once again, utility is excellent on these things. I love having that. This comes from someone who is a player, I would imagine, as most GMs do provide or try to provide, if the game has it, a rule summary so the players have a general idea on how to keep things flowing, and likewise the GM themselves, rather than have to flip through the book to find the rules all the time, regardless if it's a 20-page book or if it's a 300-page book. Having little cheat sheets are provided by the by the author or the publisher is fantastic, and that's why I'm a fan of GM screens. Whether you like them or not, they are still functional, and a lot of them provide a lot of easy access to information that you don't necessarily, that you can spend a lot of time flipping through your book for, even if you've saved all this information with page markers or bookmarks or whatever. Always something comes up, or you're searching for something and it stops the flow of the game. And GM screens, cheat sheets can help keep that flow going. And likewise, if a GM screen is something that you feel is a disconnect between you and your player, well, put that GM screen flat. So sorry for the sidetrack there on the GM screen, but it tends to come up very often. So there we are. We have Cairn. Seems to be a wonderfully simplified OSR styling of a game. It kind of hits all the right beats, and I think it's presented itself, at least through this little page through, of something that if you feel, if Old School Essentials is too many rules for you, but you enjoy the aesthetic of the OSR and you're looking for something that will allow you to carry this that aesthetic, that style, that feel, that aspect of old school gaming, and also likewise what the OSR is providing. This might be a good rule set for someone who doesn't want to be bogged down too much with the rules themselves. So excellent. So yeah, and on top of it all, it is a beautiful, beautiful book. So concluding with this, I'll just read to you what is on the back here. Cairn is an adventure game inspired by the likes of Into the Odd and Knave, and I think they wear that on their sleeve within this. It's obvious. Explore a mysterious woodland filled with all manner of creatures, fey and fell, pillage ancient barrels, still powerful spellbooks, and slay horrid beasts. Rinse and repeat if you enjoy that. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking for just to have a nice palate cleanser of a campaign or an adventure, and you don't want to deal with a ridiculous amount of rules, or even not ridiculous amount of rules, even a well-refined, well-documented, well-laid-out book such as Old School Essentials, but still feel that's just too many rules for you, but you still want to go through and pillage ancient barrows and steal powerful spellbooks and slay horrid beasts, then yeah, check out Cairn. Glad I picked this up. So, all right, what are we at time? Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a two-parter. What do we have coming up next? So I'll just go through this real quick, since this is something, it's a zine for use with Cairn by Matthew Morris. This is also a special edition, a wonderfully textured cardboard cover here. Beautiful, beautiful Celtic designs within Cairns and, Crannogs. So real quick, let's see here. There we are. So the setting. So this is a setting book. What is this scene? Perfect, because it's only like 4 or 5 pages here. So Cairn and Crannogs is a zine for the NSR adventure game Cairn. Okay, that's the new school rules. I know there's several deviations on OSR, NSR, and what where everything kind of branches from there. That is a discussion for Titterpigs, not here. So, Caers and Crannogs is a zine for the NSR adventure game Cairn. Cairn is produced by, and once again, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this, Yokai Gal, and is based on the games Into the Odd and Knave. The zine seeks to present additional rules, alternative rules, new items and spells, new backgrounds and loadouts, settings, potential adventures, and lots of random tables. I love lots and lots of random tables, so fantastic. Issue 1 and the next few to come will focus on the other world, an Iron Age Celtic world of the fair folk. Excellent. So it goes on to describe the other world within here, gives some information on picturing the setting, which once again is something that I feel certain games either miss or they bloviate to the point of, good Lord, I just don't want to read anymore. But here we have a short and concise example. So I'm going to read this real quick. So just want to see what they're doing with this to kind of, make it a little bit more simpler and yet see if it provides the information that you need to picture the setting. With its rolling green hillsides, to its rugged and steep highlands, its deep and dark forests, to its lush and peaceful glens, meadows, and marshes, to briny coastlands and windswept hinterlands, the other world is beauty incarnate. Deep pools of the richest waters and the bluest blues, oak groves, sacred stands of holly and hawthorn, more ancient than time itself, mounds of earth and stone, hollow and full of the halls of past lords and chieftains, standing stones of Neolithic proportions, with ever so delicately etched runes and serpentine not like mazes, depressed into the rock. The countryside is littered with myth and legend, and it beckons all those who see it to stay. Those who dwell here are ruddy, fair, tough, and worn, yet smooth and tender. Great. Okay. So, that does the job without question. I have a good idea of this world as it is, and I'm familiar with all of those different descriptions based upon real world examples. And so I can piece that all together and have a good idea without having 800 pages of world building lore to rifle through. And then carrying on, it goes on to describe the culture of the other world, entering the other world, and sunwise circles and the time between times, and how do you know about this other world? All right. Carrying on, it provides tables for social structure. In other words, all peoples partake in any of the various social classes or roles, alternative loadouts as promised, and then weapons and warfare. What is the weapon? And then we have some information on horse lords, which is a new profile or NPC within the game. There's some artwork here on what they call singing stones and the effects that they have and examples of how to recharge them. Okay, and then we have a short bestiary: warrior, warband, war chief, wolf, direwolf, aurochs, Sith thrall, which is also a chaos dragon. So yeah, I mean it's a short amount of information. It is a beautiful little short pamphlet, so to speak. I mean, it still qualifies as a zine, but it's just a short bit of information. But it falls in line with what Cairn is. Very rules light, providing you just enough for you to take it away and create this other world yourself and with your players and make it your own. And just kind of giving you just very simple tools to do what you want with this and add to your Cairn game if you see fit, if you weren't utilizing it in another world. So it goes on to promise in the next issues, there's going to carry on with information about hex crawling, overland travel mechanics, creating settlements, building forts, create a clan table, build a tartan, the 9 sacred woods, a hex map adventure, a dungeon crawl in Newgrange, and more. So hopefully Matthew Morris does carry on with that promise, because I wouldn't mind seeing more. Color me interested. So on the back here, Caers and Crannogs is an every other month zine that is produced by Cairn Adventure System for the Cairn Adventure System, written by Matthew Morris and published by the Manoramp Matt. This is the first couple. This and the first couple zines will focus on the setting of the other world in an Iron Age Celtic land, accessed only via strange music, ritual festival, and most importantly, sunwise circles in the time between times. So, well, good job, Matthew Morris. This is a wonderful addition to Cairn. So that gives you an entry point to jump right in with this book and go on a wonderful adventure with you and your friends. So Yes, two-part. This is already 34 minutes in, and I know that these things always tend to run long. So rather than make this a ridiculous hour, I'm going to go ahead and stop here. But part 2 is going to involve a game called Turf, and, well, it doesn't show it here, but a game called Rogueland, both of which also have been creating a bit of buzz around certain podcasts, social media circles within the RPG world. So this is another one I'm curious about to see, what does it provide? What does it do, that these other rules-like games like Cairn, and even for that matter, Knave, and Into the Odd and whatnot, what is it that they're going to provide to me to, make me want to use their system instead of these others that seem, to be able to handle that job perfectly well. And likewise, Rogueland in addition to that, although I think Rogueland might be more setting based, but I could be wrong. Anyways, there you go. This has been yet another completely unprofessional unboxing. Whoops, we'll just kind of put this back here so I close on what I've actually been talking about. There we go. This has been yet another completely professional unboxing with Cairn and also Caers and Crannogs. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead, share it if you see fit. And also check me out with Keith from rollingboxcars.com in our Titter Pigs, the tabletop RPG podcast that we do. We have another episode coming out hopefully real soon with Jason Sheets from the Sons of Singularity, and more to come after that. So thank you for watching. It has been a pleasure, and I hope you have yourself a nice day.